this is Debbie with Cultural Alignment Solutions, and I want to welcome you back to the Expansion Factor podcast. I am beyond excited, honored to be doing this show today. I have Nancy Adams, and we go back how many years, my dear? 2017?
Yeah, almost 10, I guess, at this point.
Crazy. She was going through IPEC. That's where I went through my coaching certification. She was getting her coaching certification. I had the honor of being able to be a trainer in the room and meet her. Truly amazing. I'm not even going to go on anymore about your story, Nancy. You're going to share what you want to share when it comes to expanding and expanding in this life. So, as we get started, I want you to share one word that describes your expansion journey and then share with us why and open that up for us as we get started.
Sure. One word, it's always hard. Uh,
Okay, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
yeah, I good because I've been told I'm a little bit chatty. The older I get, the more I'm told I'm like my mother, who's also a little chatty. Um, I think probably if I do one word, it'll be gratitude in my expansion journey and giving back. Um, I find ways to give back as a result of my gratitude. And where I am in my expansion journey today, and where I hope I continue to be and strive to be.
Well, you started sharing a story with us a little bit before you were kind of going to go back. I think you even went back to your 20s. Or was it born and raised on a farm with 7 children? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a little bit of
She,
both, but I was just kind of being a clown. Um, So yeah, one of the things about me is, I in my 20s I struggled a lot. I've always been a high achiever, always, was always trying to achieve the next thing. Always a little bit of an underdog. I was probably a B student at best, but I was kind of street smart. Um, I also, had gotten involved in like alcohol and drugs and some other things. And, it didn't necessarily hold me back from achieving, but it certainly wasn't where I wanted to be. And inside I wasn't feeling complete. And one of my first job out of college was actually co-founding a internet startup. So it was the late 90s. Amazon was just coming out. They were a bookseller. That's all they did at the time, was sell books. And, I remember a friend of mine from high school, we both worked in a natural products store. And, got a degree in biology. I had a degree in mass communications. And we both hated our jobs, as soon as we graduated. And he's like, hey, what do you think about his grandmother's store was the natural food store. He said, what do you think about putting, my grandmom's store on the internet? I was like, let's do it. Right. So that's what we did. And, we had a leg up from his grandmother's relationships and stuff. And we started this company called mothernature.com. And we grew it from nothing to about 30 million in revenue over a 3-year period from 96 to 99. And, it was amazing, right? But during this time, I was definitely, working long hours as soon as the day was done, which was late, going to the bar, um, you know, staying up late, doing the whole thing over again, but growing a call center, growing a warehouse, growing, all of these things and, meeting lots of people. And that inside, I wasn't really happy. And eventually what we did is we sold this to a group of venture capitalists in 99 out of Boston. And these guys knew things that I didn't know. They all went to Harvard and MIT and, they were talking in like words like derivatives. And I was just a, kid with a work ethic. And, I had no clue what they were talking about. But, we did a good job and we sold the business. And I felt really empty afterwards because that's like all I had. And so I kind of went into a little bit of a spiral with alcohol and drugs. And I didn't have anything to lean back on at that point. And, it was the best thing for me because not having anything to lean back on, eventually landed me in a place where, I had to either get into recovery, right, which was a blessing, or continue down the road I was on. And fortunately, I had a wake up call and I was able to get into recovery. And during that, when I got into recovery, I swore to myself that, you know what, I'm gonna make sure that I don't live a life of regret ever, right? Because
Mm.
when I was, when I was working and building that business, at the end of the day, when I would go to that bar or I would sit on that bar stool, right, I would talk about all the things I was gonna do and all the places I was gonna go and all the things I was gonna accomplish while I was sitting on a bar stool with all those other people who were doing the same thing but not going anywhere or doing anything or accomplishing anything. And so, when I got sober, I said to myself, I'm gonna not live a life of regret. And so, I figured out what I tried to figure out what I was going to do moving forward. Because, when you build a business from scratch as your first job out of college, it's kind of hard to figure out what do I do next, right?
Wow.
Um, so it took a little while to figure that out. And eventually I did marry business and people and, landed in human resources. I was fortunate to have a gentleman bring me on to a company who saw my startup background, saw that, we could build a business, et cetera. And he said, we're about to take off as an organization. I saw you were in startups. This is a startup. I don't know what you're going to do, but I know that you can do stuff. Um, and so, come on board here. And he somehow slotted me into human resources, right? Because he was like, we're doing a lot of hiring. I need organization of stuff and people and whatever. So that's where he stuck me. And we grew from 38 million in 2004 to 700 million by the end of 2007. And throughout that time, he put me in different roles, where he's like, okay, now I actually need someone to run an HR department. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. I've never run an HR department before, but like people had confidence in me, um, even though I didn't really have the confidence in myself, right? And he gave me a lot of responsibility and put a lot of trust in me, and you know, put people underneath me to lead and to manage, and and I was really just trying to figure stuff out as I went along. Um, and I had a pretty good head on my shoulders, but I certainly didn't have the experience or the background. I had some of it from building the business, but um, I was going in every day, basically imposter syndrome, right? I don't think I had that term at that time to be able to call it that, but there was those people around me that just believed in me and said, I need to hire, 100 people this year. Good luck, right? I need to, we need to build a training tool for new managers. Good luck. Um, I need to implement an HRIS system. You can do it. Good luck. And these things I just did because they needed to be done, and people had faith in me to do them. Um, and also, it was like something we were doing together, I think, as a team. So the fact that we were all moving in the same direction, trying to accomplish something pretty big, was also a huge motivator that we were doing it together as a team. And I liked that aspect of it. I liked being part of something bigger than myself. So when people asked me to do things, I didn't say no. And that was part of not living with regret was, when you're asked to do something, even if it scares me, just say yes. And that was something that stood with me for and still stands with me today. And that recovery also, followed me. So I, um, doing things for the first time in, recovery, with alcoholism and drug addiction, women in recovery asking me to sponsor them and help them through the 12-step program. I had a sponsor in recovery, and, a girl would ask me, hey, can you help me through the 12 steps? And I was like, I don't know. I have to ask my sponsor, right? So I would ask my sponsor. And my sponsor's like, do you have something to offer someone who, has less time than you in recovery? And I had to really sit and think about that. I was like, do I, I've gotten, a year sober or 2 years sober, and I was like, yeah, I think I do. Right. So then I said yes to that. And then, I was able to give back and help someone, with their, learn how I got sober. And then they were able to, walk their own journey in recovery and, figure out their next steps and what they needed to do in their life to get sober. And so all of these things, were all pointing in the same direction of, what was given to me or what was shown to me, how do I carry that forward and how do I continue that, um, paying that forward, right? So the people who believed in me in the startup, in the work environment, people who believed in me in the recovery world, all of that faith, blind faith, really, right? Because you don't know me from Adam, right? And they're encouraging me. They see I can do a little bit. They give me more. They see I can do, that. They give me more. Um, and then we're all growing together and moving in, the same trajectory, right? So, it's that journey, I think, has been, having these people surrounded by these people, really good people, who are like, cheering me on, wanting to see me do well, you know, um, I'm not all altruistically, right? I'm doing a good job for them,
Yeah.
right? I'm earning a paycheck, um, you know, but knowing that they're, like, I'm not alone, right? I have all this support around me. I couldn't do any of this stuff without them. And, whereas years ago when I was younger, it was all about me. It was me, like, I got to do this and I got to do that. And, when I would look at people and I would look at situations, I was very much like, thought that I could do something better than someone else, or, I was, I had to be very independent, and it was me against the world. And it was as I was learning and growing later on in life, as I realized, like, this is a collaborative effort.
Wow.
This is a effort of, we're really a community of people, walking along in this journey of life, and really helping each other, holding each other's hands through, the good, the bad, the struggles. And that was really powerful for me to be able to see and to learn. And I was really like battlefield promoted to these roles that I was not prepared for. um and when I asked for what I needed, it was given to me. But I needed to ask. And I was often afraid to ask because I was like, oh, they're going to know that I don't know. But they kind of knew that already. And they were still encouraging me. Like, there wasn't a secret that I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
So, when I look back on hindsight, it's like, there was no secret there. But in my mind, sometimes I felt like, oh, I can't ask for help because, they might catch on that I'm clueless.
Yeah.
But they knew I was clueless and they believed in me anyway. And now today, when I think about the future, what I do is the same for others, right? So, when somebody's coming in to the work environment, or somebody's coming into recovery, for the first time, reaching out my hand, how can I help? So I mentor early career HR professionals, a sponsor for other people in recovery. I volunteer, and I'm president of a HR association in the greater Philadelphia area that puts on HR thought leadership programs, so that you can stay ahead of what's happening in the HR space, right? And be thought leaders. And we have a mentor program as part of that we bring young people, or early career people into, and try to help them grow in their career. And all of that, is how we get along in life. Um, and I think that that's absolutely necessary, uh, you know, for us to progress as a society and to progress as a community. And I just feel really blessed to be able to do that. It's done for me, and I can do it for others. And I learn so much, right? Through that, I learn, and I'm able to stay on top of stuff too. For example, I don't know the Gen Z language in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what the heck half the words mean, or, all the stuff that they're doing today. So I get to stay a little bit younger and, learn like what's cool and what's not cool. They keep me abreast of what's going on, and to let me know if I'm being a boomer, or, what my deal is. And, if I'm wearing something that I shouldn't be wearing, and then they dress me appropriately. And, um, so it's great to be able to be, I think, where I am today as a result of, that gift of others who've gone before me and showed me the way.
Yeah. One word that is coming up the whole entire time that you're talking,
Mhm.
and I remember too, Nancy, in my 20s, what is it about that bar scene where you're trying to find your place? You know what I'm saying in the world? You're trying, and the word that kept coming up is trust. And I
Mhm.
literally reached into this 70 something deck of words going, okay, is this about trust? And that's the word that came out.
Wow.
Random. Crazy. But what was coming up is I love the phrase ask for what you want. That is in the core of anything that I do and I train now. Because when people hear that phrase for the first time, you have to be able to ask for what you want. They hear such not a lot of depth around it. It's like, what do I want? Versus when you truly get on the inside out and ask for what you want, that's when you start understanding emotionally what it is you're looking for. Are you looking for trustful relationships, relationships where you can mutually talk open to collaborate, to grow? All of those types of things are so empowering. So, what I heard you say was when you walked away from the bar scene, the drugs, and yes, choosing recovery, you were coming into choosing to trust yourself. And as you got to trust yourself, you were then able to trust others, trust
Mhm.
life, trust the universe, trust this whole entire journey. And then look what it's done. And that right there to me is magic. It's magic
Mhm.
to see that happen because now you just get to literally just gift it to so many other people that um, we're all here truly just actually as a human species, race, whatever, people trying to figure out where we fit in on this planet. And we all, at some level, want to tap into something that's bigger than us. And you get to
Mhm.
give that. How cool is that?
Yeah. And we all feel the same emotions and the same insecurities and the
Yep.
same concerns
Yeah.
and the same, um,
Gremlin messages, right? That just
yeah,
linger in our head.
yeah. Like, did that go well? Could I have done that differently? What's that person going to think of this? Um, do I apply for this job or that job? What's the next direction for me in life? And we need people to be able to bounce that off of. We need
Mm-hmm.
sounding boards, we need guides, and it doesn't mean that I have the answer. All it means is that I can be someone for you to discuss it with, and typically one of the things we learned in coaching is talk long enough and you'll probably get your own answer, if you're
Yeah.
allowing yourself to be honest with another person and talk yourself through and let that other person ask a question or two to help probe your thinking. Um, and that's really all we need is we have the answers within,
Yeah.
but we can't just keep it up here like a ping pong ball, right? That's because that's what happens. If we only keep it within ourselves, it's just a ping pong ball going back and forth, driving us crazy, creating anxiety, creating angst for us, never getting clarity. And, when we just share it with another person, we start to get that clarity. We start to find relief, answers, direction. And I mean, that's the human connection. That's
Yeah.
that help that we didn't know we needed. And then when we find out it's working, it's helping,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the person's like, oh, thank you so much. You helped me so much. No, I didn't. I just listened. That's
I
it.
just
I just
held the
listened to
space.
you find your own solution. But
Yeah.
hey, if you want to think I helped you, that's fine. Send me a flower.
Okay.
That's fine.
I know. I know it. That is so crazy. So I have a question for you. Obviously, right? We all live on this planet. We all have challenges. It's not like we get to a place in life and poof, everything's perfect, right? It's
No.
as long as we're living and breathing, we're expanding something. It's what are we expanding? That's what you can be expanding chaos or collaboration. You can be
Mhm.
expanding love or fear, whatever those are. So when you find yourself, let's say, in a challenging moment, we're human, we live here, we're going to have those moments. What is
Mhm.
something that Nancy does to get like grounded, recentered, to get back to that space of where you've already locked your heart in for this life?
Mhm. It's fun. It's interesting that you asked me that because I'm not great at at grounding in the moment or grounding when I'm going through something. I have kind of delayed responses, even with COVID, right? So as an example, when everybody went through COVID, I didn't go through COVID until 2023. Um, so when I say that, I mean, COVID came, Nancy, was in an HR executive capacity. So, she has to make
Oh,
sure that
yeah, that's right.
she's helping all the organization, she's solving, I even have a parent organization. So she's helping the parent organization to solve for some of the other operating companies. She's doing her thing. She's, making sure I have a big family, make sure family's good, mom's good, So I'm solving because, I'm a solver, problem solver. And, and we're a hospital organization, right? So we also can't go into hospitals for a period of time because we're a vendor and vendors aren't a priority. And so it's, what are we doing with our employees? And um, so I allowed myself to feel COVID in 2023. Actually, I probably didn't allow it. It just came over me. It hit me and I just had delayed COVID. Um, it knocked me down in 2023 for a little while, where I was, I went through a low level depression.
Mhm.
And I was like, what's wrong with me? What's going on? And, that's when I realized I never allowed myself to go through COVID, grief, loss,
Loss.
depression, any of that during the appropriate time that I should have,
Mhm.
because I was problem solving.
Yeah.
So, I am not great at dealing with it in the moment because I'm usually problem solving and then I deal with it later. Um, so I'm not the healthiest, to
Mhm.
be honest.
How about you're probably pretty normal, Nancy?
So like I would love to be like, oh, I go running and you know,
Walk around the
oh, I
building
go,
and do the
yeah, I do yoga and, I
meditation.
center myself. Um,
Yeah.
I do journal. So
Yeah.
I do a lot of journaling and I do writing. But again, it's usually it does and it tells my real feelings and I remember being in therapy um and for a long time. And
I love
you know,
therapy.
yeah, exactly. And my therapist, who I was with for 8 years, she would say, when talking, she didn't really get a lot out of me, apparently, right? Probably because of my delayed reactions. Um, and she'd say, I want you to write about that. I want you to journal on that. So then I would journal and then I'd come back the following week and she's like, read me what you wrote. And so I would read her what I wrote and she's like, so do you see the answer that you wrote in your writing? And I was like, what? No. And she's like, read it again, right? So I would read it again. And she's like, your answers are in your writing. Everything that you need is right there in your writing. All of your solutions, all of your, and I was like, really? So that's how I learned to journal to deal more in the moment. But I still don't see it, right? It's not like an active connection that I make, but I think it is a release of some sort that happens subconsciously for me. So it was a tactic that I learned. So I think there's some kind of something that happens so that, I'm probably not bottling it all up, but it's still not always conscious that it's happening.
Yeah. Well, from here forward, I want to give you a gift. Can I give you a gift?
I'd love a gift.
Okay. So awareness is your greatest power. Awareness is your greatest power to make a decision, to choose all of that, because without awareness, you don't know you have anything to choose from. And so the gift is that to yourself is awareness, because just by you saying, I'm not really good at that in the moment, but here's what's so powerful about it. And I swear you cannot make this shit up. I drew these 3 cards. As you're talking, I'm drawing cards. This is the next card that I drew, and I'm going, I wonder why I drew this card. And this is exactly why, because what you do is this.
Yeah.
This is where healing happens. This is where groundedness happens. It doesn't often happen in the moment, because in the moment, 9 times out of 10, we are having to focus on what it is that we're there and what we're doing. But someone that has the gift and they give themselves the permission to reflect, it's
Hmm.
priceless. It's
Yeah.
priceless, because that's inside out work. It's not going, oh, what should I be doing differently? There's nothing external about the work that you do. It's
Hmm.
internal. And so
So
therefore
true.
it does take time. It
Hmm.
does take time, because reflection is not something that is it's funny you said that, because this entire book that getting ready to come out, the expansion factor, that's why it's called, the podcast is called
Yeah.
that. And it's called that because when you're expanding from the inside out, and the call that I have to people is just sit with your shit. It's okay. Don't try to push it away. Just go, why do I deflect? Why do I do that? And allow yourself just to go, yeah, that's what I do. Do I want to do that or do I not? What is it expanding if I do? And I love that you say that. And I love that you own that. Because
Hmm.
then it brings me to the last word that I have for you.
Very transparent.
You are.
Mm.
You are. What does that word mean to you? Transparency.
I mean, kind of like what you see is what you get with me a lot. Like I'm very relatable. Um,
You think?
yeah, and I'm very empathetic. For example,
Yeah.
somebody comes to me and they're talking about, something going on in their life and they're upset and they're crying. I'm crying with them. You know, I feel their sadness. I feel what they're going through, and I'm sitting here with the tissues too. My HR colleagues, I work with one who I've worked with since 2007. We've gone through different companies together, and
Yeah.
every company, for some reason, we have these like clear glass offices, right? So everybody can see in each other's offices. Probably not great sometimes for the emotional pieces of
Yeah.
working in human resources, but she'll walk by my office and, somebody will be in there, we'll be sitting at a little round table and we'll be talking like real close and, they'll be upset and I'll be sitting there too. And I'll be like this and like tears are running down my face and she'll send me a text and she'll be like, oh, she's like crying again with the employees.
You're like, is what it is.
It
One
is.
of the sayings, and tuck it in to your space, is the emotion is the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And it
It
is.
is.
It is. It no matter what the emotion is, it is the one wearing the name tag, coming in, giving you a spotlight. So if you're angry, what's its
Yeah.
message? If you're in full love, what's its message? To me, a trigger is actually neutral. We tend to sometimes say triggers are all catabolic, and I'm like, no, things trigger you to joy. Things trigger you to appreciation. If we can truly look at the emotion just as simply the messenger, God, it's
Yeah.
life changing. Life changing. I love that
So
you bring
true.
that to so many, so many.
Yeah. I can't believe
Well,
you picked those cards.
I listen, and I normally never do it this. Normally at this part of the podcast, I'm like, okay, I'm going to randomly draw a word, but as you're talking, it's like I would hear, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but it was like, cut the deck, draw the fifth card. I'm over here, down here under the cut the deck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I laid it down, and it was,
Because we're connected.
we are,
We always were from the moment
we
we met.
always. It's just, and look how many cards are
We,
here. Do what?
maybe even before we met, we just didn't know.
We were. We were. This has
Yeah.
been going around for a long time. Well, I am honored that you were with me today on this podcast. I cannot wait to get this off to editing, get it back. Your story to me, I have always seen you as, of course, you and I both understand energy leadership and all of that via IPEC, but that level 4, that servant's heart and the love and the compassion for others. And from the first day I saw you, you just radiated that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just am grateful that you passed my life, that actually the universe dropped us in
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia together that day to meet.
So true.
Now that we've reconnected again, I want to just stay connected and
Same.
I'd be of service to you too, especially as you work with these young ones coming up. That to me is so, because my kids are now, my daughter, they're in their 30s, and then I have one still in their 20s. And watching them navigate life now is so different, even back years ago when we all were at that same age. And
Mm-hmm. It is very
it's
different, isn't it?
it's different. It's so
Yeah.
different. It's so different. And a part of me is so grateful to be where I am and to be able to be, mentor with them. I mean, my daughter, she's 36. She's CEO of an organization. Well, it's crazy. Owns it,
Wow.
not just CEO, owns it, and physical therapy, speech therapy, OT. She does all of the services in 5 locations. I'm like, how do
Wow.
you do this and raise 3 children? How do you
Right.
do this?
Yeah.
And she's
It's
like, I learned from the
amazing.
best, mom. I learned from you. And I'm just like, no, I did not teach you this. But to watch how they're taking it and their lives are propelling at such a different rate of speed now, it's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible to watch it.
It really
So,
is. And they're so good. They're such good
yeah.
kids. Like, I mean, I think about, Gen X, right? I mean, I guess we were just I was just left to, we were all left to our own devices, right? I got
Mhm.
all my siblings at last Thanksgiving. I bought them all sweatshirts that said different Gen X sayings on them, right? Said like, raised on neglect and hose water, adulting since kindergarten. We don't Gen X, we don't care, like just different things like that,
So
and
good.
then we all lined, put the sweatshirts on, lined up and took, picture. And and it's like I don't know what the heck we were doing. We were just out there, doing whatever the heck we wanted. And like the kids growing up today, like they don't get into trouble. We used to get into so much trouble. And I don't know,
Yeah.
this is a funny story. I don't know if this will make the cut or not, but so, my mom had 7 kids, right? So, and my dad died in 1979. So the oldest was 16, the youngest was me, I was 5. And so she raised us, right? She never remarried or anything like that. So fortunately, she had her nursing degree from Villanova. And, but she had, stayed at home for 16 years raising kids and didn't work. And so then she had to go back to work. And, she kind of worked her way from the bottom up. And so by the time I was in probably like early high school years, we had this book in our kitchen. It was like a composition book. And you would basically log in and log out, your time in, your time out, where you went, when you were expected to be home, right? So it's called the logbook. And my older siblings had it too, but like I didn't have to log in and log out until I was like older, right? Because they knew where I was for the most part. At least the older kids did. And the older kids raised the youngers, as
Yeah.
when you're that big. So we affectionately called it the lie book because, every other entry was to the library, to the library, to the library, right? And we'd be down the dead end, drinking and,
Yep.
doing things we shouldn't have been doing, down in the woods doing stuff or whatever.
Yep.
So my mom, bless her heart, had no idea that we weren't at the library. She was actively trying to make money for us, for her family. She became a school nurse eventually so she could keep our hours. She was going to school at night so she could make like maximum earnings, getting her master's plus 30, all this stuff. Just trying to raise her family and do the best by us. And we're filling out this lie book so I think I was like 20 years old and it was Christmas and we all just started talking about mom said, one of the best things I ever did raising you kids was that logbook. And we're all sitting around Christmas and we're like looking at each other like, do we tell her? Do we tell her? And then somebody said, yeah, we're going to tell her. And so we said, all right, mom, you mean the lie book? She's like, what? What are you talking about? So we're like, yeah, we call it the lie book because every other entry was basically a lie. When we said we were at the library, we weren't at the library. We were, doing out with our boyfriends that you didn't know we had, or, at some girl's house that you didn't want us to be friends with, or, doing something that you wouldn't approve of. And she was like, no. She was so devastated. And my poor mother, I mean, she still is such a wonderful woman, but she was quite naive, as we're growing up.
Yep.
And yes, she was quite, now it's a big joke. She's like, oh, the lie book. But yeah, the poor woman, she had her hands full with us. And
7 kids is no joke.
mm-hmm.
And you know what? That she
She's
had
the
her little
same.
bubble that protected her to be
Yes.
able to make money. And
Yes.
look at all of y'all now. And
She's the same. Yes, we're all living, right? So
yeah,
that in and of itself is an accomplishment. We're all alive.
yeah, yeah.
Because
And to me, it's a testament because I look back on some of the crap sneaking out my window at night, doing all, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the stuff that I think that I did. And it was crazy in Florida.
Or
No
what
lie.
could
We
have
lived on
happened?
a swamp in Florida. I would take a blow up raft and it was an alligator pond surrounded by alligators floating with our friends. Huge. And I'm going, I can't believe I'm alive.
Yes, that's what I mean. The things that could have happened,
That's where you know it's
kidnapping,
something's
eaten by
bigger.
alligators.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would
Something's
think you're
bigger than all of us.
invincible,
I know.
right?
Yeah. Oh, now, and I won't even go anywhere near. I mean, nothing. I'm so like, no,
Right.
they're not going up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're crazy.
It's the universe, truly, truly, when you're on a path, you're here for a path. You
She
are.
has an angel over her shoulder all the time. She's
Yeah.
really, she's
Yeah.
87. She's still in good health. We
Oh, that's
she's
how my
great.
mama is. My mama is just as spry and goes, and yep, she's 80. 8, I believe now. So.
Awesome. We're fortunate.
Well, 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 I am grateful for you.
Same.